Jake Morrison woke up to the sound of alarms blaring through his small room. The young soldier jumped out of bed and grabbed his uniform. Something was wrong on the planet, and he needed to find out what it was. The morning sun had not even risen yet, and the dark sky outside his window looked peaceful. But the alarm meant danger. He ran to the control room where all the screens showed red warning lights. A distress signal was coming from the eastern canyon, about 5 miles away from the base. Jake looked at the map and saw the location marked with a blinking dot. His team had left yesterday to get supplies from another settlement, so he was alone at the outpost. Jake packed his bag with water, food, medical supplies, and his weapon. He did not know what he would find, but he wanted to be ready for anything. The base was quiet as he walked through the empty halls. His boots made echoing sounds on the metal floor. Outside, the cold morning air hit his face, and he could see his breath forming small clouds. The walk to the canyon took him almost an hour. The land on this planet was red and rocky, with tall stone formations that looked like giant fingers pointing at the sky. 2 suns would rise soon, and their light would make everything look orange and gold. Jake had been on this planet for 3 years, and he still found the landscape beautiful. As he got closer to the signal location, he saw smoke rising from behind a large rock formation. Jake slowed down and pulled out his weapon. He moved carefully around the rocks, ready for anything. What he found made him stop and stare. There was a crater in the ground, small but deep. Around it were pieces of something that looked like a shell. The shell fragments were beautiful, shining with blue and green colors that seemed to glow even in the dim light. In the middle of all this mess was a small creature. Jake had never seen anything like it. The creature was about the size of a cat, with scales covering its body. The scales changed colors as Jake watched, going from deep purple to bright orange to dark blue. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and 2 small wings folded against its back. The creature was shaking and looked very weak. Jake put his weapon away and moved closer slowly. He did not want to scare the small creature. As he got near, the creature opened its eyes. They were gold, bright and clear, and they looked right at Jake with an intelligence that surprised him. This was not just an animal. This creature was smart. The small being tried to move away from Jake, but its legs were too weak. It fell down and made a sad chirping sound. Jake could see that it was hurt and scared. He knelt down on the ground and spoke in a soft voice. "Hey there, little one. I'm not going to hurt you. You look like you need help." The creature watched him carefully. Its head tilted to one side like it was trying to understand his words. Then it opened its mouth, showing tiny, sharp teeth. Jake thought it might try to bite him, but instead the creature made a strange sound. It was like a squeaky hiccup followed by a small puff of smoke that came out of its nose. Jake could not help but smile. Whatever this creature was, it was not dangerous right now. It was just a baby, alone and scared. He reached into his bag and pulled out a protein bar. He broke off a small piece and held it out to the creature. The golden eyes looked at the food, then at Jake, then back at the food. Slowly, the small creature moved forward. It snatched the food from Jake's hand with surprising speed and moved back quickly to eat it. Jake broke off another piece and held it out. This time, the creature came a little closer before taking the food. They continued like this for several minutes. Each time, the creature stayed a bit closer to Jake. It was learning to trust him. After the protein bar was gone, Jake carefully removed his jacket. The morning was getting warmer anyway, and the creature looked cold. He moved slowly and wrapped the jacket around the small being. At first it struggled, but then it seemed to understand that the jacket was warm. It stopped fighting and settled into the fabric. Jake picked up the bundle carefully. The creature was warmer than he expected, like it had a fire burning inside its small body. It looked up at him with those golden eyes and made a soft chirping sound. Then it closed its eyes and went to sleep. As Jake walked back to the base, he looked down at the sleeping creature in his arms. He had so many questions. Where did it come from? What kind of animal was it? Why was it alone? The shell pieces in the crater looked like an egg, which meant this creature had probably been born very recently. The 2 suns were rising now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Jake walked faster, wanting to get back to the base where he could examine the creature properly and maybe find some answers. He also needed to contact his commanders and tell them what he had found. The creature made small noises in its sleep, like a mix between a bird chirping and a radio with static. Jake found it strangely comforting. He adjusted his arms to hold the bundle more securely. "I wonder what you are," Jake said quietly to the sleeping creature. and how you ended up here all alone." The creature shifted in the jacket but did not wake up. Its scales changed color again, this time settling on a soft blue that reminded Jake of the sky back on Earth. He felt a strange protective feeling growing in his chest. This small creature had no one else. It was alone on a planet far from wherever it came from. Jake made a decision as he walked. He would take care of this creature. He would keep it safe and figure out what it needed. Maybe it was not the smartest decision. Maybe his commanders would be angry. But looking down at the small sleeping form in his arms, Jake knew he could not do anything else. By the time he reached the base, the suns were fully up and the day was getting hot. Jake went straight to his quarters and laid the creature down on his bed. It woke up briefly, looked around at the new surroundings, and then went back to sleep. Jake sat down at his desk and started typing a report to send to Central Command. He described finding the creature, the shell fragments, and its current condition. He attached photos that he had taken with his communicator. Then he hit send and hoped for a quick response. While he waited, Jake watched the creature sleep. It was peaceful now, breathing slowly and steadily. Whatever it was, wherever it came from, it was safe now. Jake would make sure of that. He did not know then that this small creature would change his life completely. He did not know that he had just found one of the rarest beings in the galaxy. He did not know that teaching this creature to speak would become the most important thing he would ever do. For now, he just knew that he had found something special, something that needed help. And Jake Morrison had never been the kind of person to walk away from someone who needed him. The creature woke up 6 hours later, and Jake's quiet afternoon suddenly became very loud and chaotic. Jake had spent the time building a small pen using storage boxes from the supply room. He arranged them in a square on the floor of his quarters, leaving enough space for the creature to move around. The boxes were smooth metal, about 3 feet tall. Jake thought this would be enough to keep the small creature safe, while he figured out what to do next. He was wrong. Jake had just finished sending another message to Central Command when he heard a triumphant chirping sound. He looked up from his computer and felt his mouth fall open. The creature was no longer in the pen. Instead, it sat on top of his bookshelf near the ceiling, looking down at him with what could only be described as a proud expression. "How did you do that?" Jake asked out loud. The boxes were smooth with no handholds. The creature should not have been able to climb them at all. The small being chirped again and bounced up and down on the shelf. Its tail swung back and forth with excitement. Then it opened its mouth and made a sound that shocked Jake completely. "Hello?" Jake almost dropped his tablet computer. He stared up at the creature in disbelief. "Did you just try to say hello?"
Hello.
Hello! The creature bounced harder, clearly pleased with itself. Its wings flapped a little, even though it was not flying. Jake moved closer to the bookshelf, his heart beating fast. This changed everything. The creature was not just smart. It was trying to communicate. It was trying to speak human language after only hearing Jake talk a few times. Okay, calm down before you fall," Jake said, holding out his hands. "Can you say it again, hello?" The creature leaned forward, staring at Jake's mouth as he spoke. Its own mouth opened and closed several times like it was practicing the shape. Jake could see it thinking hard, trying to figure out how to make the right sound. Then the creature tried again. "Helgork!" Jake wanted to laugh but held it in. The creature was trying so hard and he did not want to make it feel bad. "That was really close, very good. But it is 2 sounds. Hello, can you try?" "Helgork." "Gork, gork." The creature seemed very happy with this new word, even if it was not quite right. It repeated the sound over and over each time with the same proud expression. Jake spent the next 20 minutes trying to coax the creature down from the bookshelf. Finally, he had to move a chair close enough for it to jump onto, and then it climbed down onto his shoulder. It was heavier than it looked, and its claws were sharp. Jake made a mental note to find something to trim those claws. He carried the creature to his desk and set it down gently. Now that it was closer, Jake could examine it better. The scales were beautiful, smooth and shiny. The colors still changed depending on the light. The wings were small but perfectly formed, with thin membranes stretched between delicate bones. The creature's face was almost cute, with large golden eyes and a small snout. "We need to figure out what you are," Jake said. He pulled up the photos he had taken and started comparing them to the database of known species. The computer searched through thousands of entries while Jake waited. Finally, a match appeared on the screen. Jake read the information and felt his stomach drop. The creature was a Draconus stellaris, a dragon, a species that was supposed to be extinct. According to the database, dragons had lived in several star systems thousands of years ago. They were intelligent, could breathe fire, and had many other abilities that made them powerful. But they had disappeared long before humans started traveling to the stars. No one knew why they went extinct. Scientists had found fossils and old records, but never a living dragon, until now. Jake looked at the small creature sitting on his desk. A dragon. He was taking care of a baby dragon. The situation suddenly felt much bigger and more serious than he had thought. "So you are a dragon," Jake said softly. "That explains a lot." The dragon tilted its head and chirped. Then it tried to speak again. "Helgork?" "Helgork good." Jake smiled despite his worried thoughts. "Yes, Helgork is good." "You are doing great." Over the next few days, Jake discovered many things about his new companion. The dragon was always trying to learn new words. Whenever Jake spoke, the dragon watched his mouth carefully and tried to copy the sounds. Most attempts were wrong in funny ways, but the dragon never gave up. Jake also learned that the dragon needed to eat a lot. Its appetite seemed to double every other day. He went through his food supplies quickly and had to request more from the main storage. The dragon liked protein bars, dried fruit, and especially the meat from Jake's meal rations. The dragon also loved warm places. It would curl up near the heating vents in Jake's room and make happy chirping sounds. At night, it slept on the foot of Jake's bed, its body warm like a heating pad. But the biggest discovery was that the dragon desperately wanted to communicate. It spent hours each day practicing words. Jake started keeping a list of the dragon's attempts and the actual words it was trying to say. The list grew longer every day. On the 5th day, Jake decided the dragon needed a name. He could not keep calling it the creature or the dragon forever. "How about Ember?" Jake suggested. "It means a small piece of burning coal. You are warm like fire and you breathe smoke. Ember fits you." The dragon looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes. Then it tried to repeat the name. Blember? Jake tried not to laugh. Ember, Blember. "You are doing this on purpose now, are you not?" The dragon's response was to breathe out a small flame that burned the corner of a paper on Jake's desk. The flame was tiny, barely bigger than a candle flame, but it was real fire. Jake quickly grabbed the fire extinguisher he now kept nearby and put out the small fire. "We need to work on controlling that," Jake said firmly. "No fire inside the room unless I say it is okay. Understand?" The dragon looked ashamed. Its head drooped and its scales turned a darker blue color. Sorry, Jake." Jake felt his heart melt. The dragon had just used 2 words correctly in a sentence, and it knew it had done something wrong. "It is okay, Ember, you are still learning. Just be more careful, all right? Ember careful. Ember good dragon." The small creature climbed into Jake's lap and curled up there seeking comfort. Jake petted the dragon's head gently. The scales were smooth under his hand and very warm. Ember made a rumbling sound that reminded Jake of a cat purring. They sat like that for a while, both comfortable and content. But Jake knew this peaceful time would not last. He had sent multiple reports to Central Command about finding Ember. So far, he had not received any clear instructions back. The responses just said the matter was under review. Jake suspected that people at Command were arguing about what to do with a living dragon. Part of him wanted to keep Ember a secret, to protect the small dragon from being taken away and studied. But Jake knew that was not realistic. Ember was growing fast. In just 5 days, he had already gotten noticeably bigger. Soon he would be too large to hide. That evening, Jake tried to teach Ember more words. They sat on the floor together, and Jake pointed at different objects in the room. "Chair," Jake said, pointing. "Chair," Ember repeated. "Close." "Chair." "Chair. Chair." Ember looked very pleased with himself. "Good. Now this is a table. Table. Excellent. You're getting better at this." Ember puffed up with pride. Ember smart. Learn fast. Make Jake happy. Jake felt a lump form in his throat. The dragon was not just learning to speak. It cared about making Jake happy. It cared about doing well. This was not just an animal or even just an intelligent creature. This was someone. Someone with feelings and thoughts and a personality. "You do make me happy, Ember," Jake said honestly. "You are very special." Jake special too. Jake save Ember. Ember alone and scared. Jake come and help. Jake give food and warm place. Jake teach talk. Ember loved Jake. The words were simple and the grammar was wrong, but the meaning was clear. Jake pulled the small dragon into a hug, careful of the wings and tail. Ember wrapped his wings around Jake as much as he could and made happy chirping sounds. At that moment, Jake made a promise to himself. Whatever happened, whatever Central Command decided, he would do everything in his power to protect this dragon. Ember trusted him and Jake would not let him down. 3 weeks passed and life at the outpost fell into a comfortable routine. Ember grew bigger every day, now about the size of a medium dog. His language skills improved too, though he still made funny mistakes that made Jake laugh. One morning, Jake woke up to find Ember sitting on the window ledge looking out at the sunrise. The dragon turned to look at him and spoke carefully. "Jake need eat now?" Jake sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. "Yes, I do need to eat." "That was a good sentence, Ember." "Ember eat too. Eat big. Grow strong like Jake." The dragon puffed out his chest proudly, trying to look brave and strong, but he lost his balance and fell off the ledge. Jake caught him before he hit the floor. "Easy there. Maybe work on balance before you try to show off." "Balance hard," Ember grumbled, settling back on the window ledge more carefully. "Talk hard too. Why human words have so many sounds?" "Well, you are actually doing very well. Most people study for years to learn a new language. You have only been trying for 3 weeks. Ember not people. Ember dragon." He said it with such serious dignity that Jake had to turn away to hide his smile. Jake went to prepare breakfast while Ember watched from his perch. The dragon had learned to stay out of the way while Jake cooked, after an incident where he tried to help and knocked over an entire container of flour. The base kitchen had smelled like burned flour for days. As they ate, Jake noticed Ember watching him carefully. The dragon was always observing, always learning. He picked up on patterns and routines quickly. He knew when Jake was about to leave for his daily patrol. He knew when it was time for meals. He even seemed to know when Jake was worried or upset about something. "Jake thinking hard," Ember observed, tilting his head. "What worry, Jake?" "Just wondering when Central Command will send someone to check on you. I have sent many reports, but they keep saying they are reviewing the situation. They come take Ember away?" "I do not know. Maybe. They might want to study you, figure out more about dragons." Ember was quiet for a moment, his scales shifting to a darker blue color. This was something Jake had learned. Ember's scales changed color with his mood. Bright colors meant happy or excited. Dark colors meant worried or sad. "Ember stay with Jake," the dragon said firmly. "Not want go with strange humans. I want you to stay too, buddy, but we might not have a choice." Their conversation was interrupted by a beeping sound from Jake's communicator. He picked it up and saw a message that made his heart sink. Captain Lisa Martinez would arrive tomorrow for a surprise inspection of the outpost. Jake had managed to avoid an inspection for the 3 weeks he had been caring for Ember. His team was still away on extended assignment, so no one else had been around to see the dragon. But now a captain was coming and there was no way to hide Ember. The dragon was too big now and too curious to stay quiet in a room for hours. "We have a problem," Jake told Ember. "My boss is coming tomorrow, a captain. She will see you." "Captain bad?" "No, not bad. But she will report to Central Command. Then they will definitely send people to study you." Ember climbed onto Jake's lap, something he did when he was nervous. Despite being bigger now, he still fit, though it was getting tight. Ember scared Jake. "I know. Me too." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Jake cleaned the outpost until it sparkled. He organized all his reports and made sure everything was in order. Ember tried to help, but mostly got in the way. He knocked over cleaning supplies, tracked dust through clean rooms, and at one point, got his head stuck in a storage box. "Ember!" Jake called, hearing a distressed chirping sound. He found the dragon with a box on his head, stumbling around blindly. Jake carefully pulled the box off. "What were you doing?" "Looking for Jake's good socks. Captain come. Jake need look nice." Jake felt his annoyance melt away. "That is very thoughtful. But maybe just stay close to me so you do not get hurt, okay?" "Okay." Ember, stay close. Be good dragon for Captain visit. That night, Jake could not sleep well. He kept thinking about what would happen when Captain Martinez saw Ember. Would she understand? Would she help? Or would she immediately call for a containment team to take Ember away? Ember seemed to sense Jake's worry. The dragon moved from his usual spot at the foot of the bed and curled up next to Jake instead, his warm body providing comfort. "Not worry, Jake," Ember whispered in the dark. "Ember show Captain that Ember good. Ember talk nice. Captain see Ember not just animal." "You are definitely not just an animal," Jake agreed, petting Ember's head. "You are smart and kind and brave. I just hope she sees that too." The next morning came too quickly. Jake and Ember were both nervous. Jake put on his best uniform and made sure the outpost looked perfect. Ember tried to groom his scales, licking them until they shone. When Captain Martinez arrived, Jake met her at the landing pad. She was a tall woman with dark hair and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She shook Jake's hand and looked around the outpost with approval. "The base looks good, Morrison. I trust everything has been running smoothly." "Yes, ma'am. No major issues to report." They walked toward the main operations room. Jake's heart pounded in his chest. He had told Ember to stay in the quarters, but he knew the curious dragon would not be able to resist investigating the new visitor. Sure enough, as they entered the operations room, there was a sudden sound from the air vents above. Jake looked up just in time to see Ember come swooping down from the ceiling. The dragon had recently learned to glide using his growing wings, but his landings still needed work. "Hello, new human!" Ember shrieked, trying to land gracefully on the control console. Instead, he crashed into a pile of supply papers, sending them flying everywhere. Captain Martinez jumped back, her hand moving toward her weapon. Then she stopped and stared. "Morrison, what in the world is that?" Jake rushed forward to help Ember untangle himself from the scattered papers. "Ma'am, this is Ember. He is a Draconis stellaris juvenile. I found him in the Eastern Canyon 3 weeks ago and have been caring for him." "It talks?" Martinez's eyes were wide with shock. "He talks, yes, ma'am. He is still learning, but he is quite good at it." Ember finally freed himself from the papers and approached the captain cautiously. He sat down politely and spoke in his most careful voice. "You, Captain? Big boss of Jake?" Martinez blinked several times. She looked at Jake, then back at Ember, then at Jake again. "Morrison, this is a dragon. An actual living dragon. They are supposed to be extinct." "Yes, ma'am, I know. That is why I have been sending reports to Central Command. I have been waiting for instructions on what to do." "Jake, best teacher," Ember announced proudly. "Teach Ember many words. Ember know lots now. Can say big words too, like bureaucracy." "You taught a dragon to say bureaucracy?" Martinez looked at Jake with an expression that was somewhere between impressed and deeply confused. "It came up in conversation, ma'am." The captain studied Ember for a long moment. The dragon sat still under her gaze, his scales showing nervous colors. Finally, Martinez sighed deeply. "Morrison, my office. Now, the dragon stays here." "Ember, wait here," Ember agreed solemnly. "Not touch important things. Be good, dragon." Jake gave Ember a warning look. "Remember what we talked about, stay out of trouble." Ember, remember. Ember, very good. As Jake followed the captain toward her temporary office, he heard a crash behind them. He turned to see Ember had already climbed onto the control console and was poking at the buttons with curiosity. "Ember," Jake called back. "Sorry. Ember, just looking. Not breaking, just looking." Captain Martinez raised an eyebrow at Jake. This should be an interesting conversation. In the office, Jake explained everything. He told her about finding Ember in the crater, the destroyed egg, the dragon's rapid learning. He explained how intelligent Ember was, how he tried so hard to communicate. He told her about his concerns, that Central Command might take Ember away to some research facility, where he would be treated like a specimen instead of a person. "You have gotten attached to him," Martinez observed. It was not a question. "Yes, ma'am, I have. He is not just some animal. He thinks and feels and learns. He is just a child, really, and he has been alone, probably the last of his species. I could not just hand him over to be studied like a science project." Martinez leaned back in her chair, She was quiet for a moment, thinking. The regulations are very clear, Morrison. Undocumented alien species, especially intelligent ones, must be reported immediately to the proper authorities. I did report him, ma'am, multiple times. And then you kept him when you did not get a response fast enough. She held up a hand before Jake could argue. I am not saying you were wrong. I am saying it is complicated. And it is about to get more complicated. She pulled up a message on her screen. Central Command finally responded to your reports. They are sending a team. Xenobiologists, military observers, the whole group. They will be here in 4 days. Jake felt his stomach drop. What are they going to do with him? The message does not say exactly, but reading between the lines, they are very interested in a living dragon. Your reports say the species had many special abilities. Telepathy, camouflage, extreme intelligence, breathing fire. They want to study all of that. Ember can barely light a match without sneezing, Jake protested. Captain Martinez looked at Jake with understanding in her eyes. Right now he can barely light a match. But he is growing fast, Morrison. You said his appetite doubles every few days. What will he be like in a month? In 6 months? In a year? Jake knew she was right, but he did not want to admit it. He is still just a child. He needs someone who cares about him, not scientists who just see him as an interesting specimen. I understand how you feel. I really do. But we have to think about the bigger picture here. What if there are more dragons out there? What if Ember is not the last of his kind? What if his species needs help that we can provide? Or what if they just want to study him until they understand how his abilities work, and then use that information for military purposes? Jake could not keep the bitterness out of his voice. Martinez did not answer right away. She seemed to be thinking carefully about her next words. I cannot promise you what will happen, but I can promise that I will include my observations in my report. I will make it clear that Ember is not just an intelligent creature, but a person with feelings and relationships. Maybe that will make a difference. Thank you, ma'am. Now go back out there before your dragon breaks something expensive. Jake returned to the operations room to find Ember sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered papers and looking very guilty. Ember not mean to knock over filing system. Just wanted to see if could read human writing. Can you read it? Jake asked, helping to pick up the papers. Little bit. No letters. Not know all words yet, but learning. Ember's scales brightened to a happy orange color. That evening, after Captain Martinez left to return to her ship, Jake sat down with Ember to explain what was happening. The dragon listened quietly, which was unusual for him. He had become quite chatty over the past few weeks. So big important humans coming? Ember asked finally. Yes, they want to meet you, learn about you, figure out where you came from and what you need. Ember need Jake, the dragon said simply. Jake find Ember when Ember scared and alone. Jake give food and warm place. Jake teach words. Jake is, he struggled to find the right word. Friend? Jake suggested quietly. Friend, yes, Jake is friend. Best friend. Ember climbed into Jake's lap, even though he was getting really too big for it now. Ember go away from Jake? I do not know, buddy. Maybe. They might think you need to be somewhere with more resources, better equipment, people who know more about dragons than I do. But Ember want stay with Jake. The dragon's voice was small and sad. Other humans not know Ember. Not know Ember scared of loud sounds. Not know Ember like sleep in warm spots by the heater. Not know Ember try very hard at talking even when words come out wrong. Jake wrapped his arms around the dragon, feeling the warmth radiating from his scales. I know, Ember, I know you try hard. And I am very proud of you. They sat like that for a long time, neither one sure what the next 4 days would bring. Jake's mind raced with possibilities. Maybe he could request to go with Ember wherever they took him. Maybe he could apply for a transfer to whatever facility they chose. He would not let Ember face this alone. The next 4 days passed too quickly. Jake tried to prepare Ember for meeting the new people. He explained that they would ask many questions and maybe do some tests. He told Ember to be himself, to show them how smart he was, to let them see he was a person and not just an interesting animal. Ember practiced his speaking every day, wanting to be perfect when the visitors arrived. He made Jake quiz him on vocabulary. He worked on his grammar. He even tried to improve his pronunciation, though some words still came out funny. How Ember say this word? he asked, pointing to a word on Jake's tablet. Extraordinary. It means very special or unusual. Extraordinary. Ember said it slowly, getting every syllable right. Ember, extraordinary dragon? Yes, you are definitely extraordinary. Jake, extraordinary human. Best human in whole galaxy. On the morning the team from Central Command was supposed to arrive, Ember was so nervous his scales kept changing colors rapidly. He could not sit still. He paced back and forth in Jake's quarters, his tail swishing anxiously. What if they not like Ember? What if they think Ember not smart enough? What if Ember say words wrong and they laugh? They are not going to laugh at you, Jake assured him. And they will see how smart you are. Just be yourself. But what if myself not good enough? Jake knelt down so he was at eye level with Ember. Listen to me. You are good enough. You are more than good enough. You are amazing. You learned to speak a completely foreign language in less than a month. You are kind and curious and brave. Anyone who does not see that is not worth worrying about. Ember pressed his head against Jake's chest. Thank you, Jake. Ember, try be brave. The team arrived at midday. There were 5 of them. 2 scientists in white coats, 2 military officers, and someone who Jake guessed was a specialist in alien relations. They all looked very official and serious. Jake met them at the landing pad and escorted them to a conference room he had prepared. Ember had agreed to wait in Jake's quarters until it was time to meet everyone. Jake wanted to talk to the team first, to explain the situation before they saw Ember. Dr. Alan Cooper, the lead scientist, was a quiet man with gray hair and kind eyes. He listened carefully as Jake explained how he found Ember and everything that had happened since. He asked good questions and took notes on his tablet. So the dragon has learned over 200 words in less than a month? Dr. Cooper asked. 237 words last time we counted, Jake confirmed, and he is learning more every day. That is remarkable. The historical records indicated that Draconis Stellaris had advanced linguistic abilities, but this exceeds anything we expected. Lieutenant Casey Mills, the alien relations specialist, leaned forward. How does he feel about meeting us? Is he scared? Very nervous, Jake admitted. He is worried you will not think he is good enough, or that you will take him away from here. We need to make sure he feels safe, Casey said firmly. This is a first contact situation, even if he has been living with you. We need to handle it carefully. The other scientist, Dr. Paul Henderson, was less sympathetic. The creature is a valuable specimen. We need to understand its biology, its abilities, its origins. Personal feelings cannot get in the way of scientific inquiry. He is not a creature or a specimen, Jake said, his voice harder than he intended. His name is Ember and he is a person. He thinks and feels and has opinions. If you cannot see that, then maybe you should not be here. Dr. Henderson looked annoyed, but Dr. Cooper held up a hand. Morrison is right. The historical records are clear that Draconis Stellaris were fully sentient beings with complex societies. We need to treat Ember as we would treat any intelligent person we encounter. After an hour of discussion, they agreed it was time to meet Ember. Jake went to get him from his quarters. He found the dragon sitting by the window, staring out at the red canyons in the distance. Time to go? Ember asked without turning around. Yes, are you ready? No, but go anyway. Ember stood up and walked to Jake's side. Jake, stay with Ember? Every second. I promise. They walked to the conference room together. Jake could feel Ember shaking slightly, his scales dark with nervousness. At the door, Ember stopped. Ember scared, Jake. I know. But remember what I told you. You are amazing. Just be yourself. Ember took a deep breath and small puffs of smoke came from his nose. Then he nodded. Okay, Ember ready now. Jake opened the door and they walked in together. The 5 visitors all turned to look at them. There was a moment of silence as everyone stared at Ember. The dragon stood as tall as he could, trying to look brave even though Jake could see he was terrified. Then Ember spoke, his voice clear and careful. Hello. Ember is pleased to meet you. Thank you for coming to visit. It was not perfect grammar, but it was close, and more importantly, it was spoken with dignity and politeness. Jake felt a surge of pride. Dr. Cooper's face broke into a huge smile. Hello, Ember. It is very nice to meet you too. My name is Alan Cooper, but you can call me Alan. Casey Mills was the next to speak. Hi, Ember. I am Casey. I work with different species helping them communicate with humans. Your speaking is very impressive. One by one, the others introduced themselves. Even Dr. Henderson seemed taken aback by Ember's clear attempt at polite conversation. Ember listened carefully to each name, repeating them quietly to himself to memorize them. Ember, remember all names, the dragon announced. Alan, Casey, Paul, Commander Frank, and Officer Nina. Ember, good at remembering. You certainly are, Alan said warmly. Ember, we have a lot of questions for you. Is it okay if we talk for a while? Ember looked at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. Then the dragon turned back to the visitors. Okay, Ember answer questions. But Ember have questions too. Want know why you all come? Want know what happened to Ember now? That is very fair, Casey said. We can take turns. We ask you some questions, then you can ask us some. Does that sound good? Yes, that sound good. Ember ready to start? Jake pulled out a chair for Ember to sit on, and the meeting began. The meeting lasted for 3 hours, and by the end of it, even Dr. Henderson seemed impressed with Ember. The dragon answered their questions thoughtfully, though sometimes he had to ask Jake to help explain things he did not have words for yet. Alan asked about Ember's earliest memories. The dragon described waking up in the broken egg, cold and alone. He remembered being very hungry and scared. He did not know how the egg got to the planet or where it came from. His first clear memory was seeing Jake's face looking down at him. Casey asked about learning to speak. Ember explained that he watched Jake's mouth very carefully when he talked. He noticed which sounds went with which mouth shapes. Then he practiced over and over until he got it right, or at least close to right. At first, Ember say Hell Gork instead of hello, the dragon said, his scales shifting to an embarrassed pink color. Jake very patient. Never get angry when Ember say words wrong. Just keep teaching. That is how good learning happens, Casey said warmly. With patience and encouragement. Commander Frank, one of the military officers, asked about Ember's fire breathing. The dragon demonstrated by producing a small flame, about the size of a candle fire. Everyone watched with fascination. Can only make small fire now, Ember explained. Sometimes fire come out when not wanted to, like when sneeze or laugh too hard. Still learning control. Have you noticed any other abilities developing? Alan asked. The historical records mention that adult dragons could do many things. Camouflage, telepathy, enhanced strength. Not know what all those words mean, Ember admitted. But sometimes Ember know what Jake feeling without Jake saying. And scales change color with mood. Maybe that camouflage thing? Camouflage, Alan corrected gently. Yes, the color changing could be an early form of that ability. After the scientists finished their questions, it was Ember's turn. The dragon had clearly been thinking about what he wanted to ask. What you want do with Ember? He asked directly. Ember go away from Jake? Go to different place? The room went quiet. The visitors looked at each other and Jake could see them trying to decide how to answer. Finally, Alan spoke carefully. Ember, that is what we need to talk about. You are very special. You might be the only dragon left in the entire galaxy. We want to make sure you have everything you need to grow up healthy and happy. Ember have everything need here. Have Jake, have warm place, have food, have learning. That is true, Casey said. But you are growing very quickly. Soon you will be too big for Lieutenant Morrison's quarters, and you will need special food, special care. We want to make sure you get all of that. So Ember must leave Jake? The dragon's voice was very small and his scales turned dark blue. Not necessarily, Alan said. He pulled out his tablet and showed Ember some pictures. We have several options. There is a research station on another planet that has facilities for large beings, or there is a cultural exchange program on Earth designed for situations like this. Ember looked at the pictures but did not seem interested. What third option? Alan looked surprised. How did you know there was a third option? You say several options. Several mean more than two, so must be at least three. Jake felt his heart swell with pride. Ember's logic and language skills were getting better every day. You are absolutely right, Alan said, smiling. There is a third option, but we need to discuss it with Lieutenant Morrison first. He turned to Jake. Captain Martinez sent a proposal before we arrived. The military is planning to expand this outpost into a full research facility. They want someone to run it, someone who understands both the military side and the scientific side. She recommended you for the position. Jake was stunned. Me run a research facility? You have proven you can handle unexpected situations with intelligence and compassion, Commander Frank said. And you have established a successful relationship with a xenobiological entity. Those are exactly the skills we need. The position comes with better facilities, Casey added, including housing designed to accommodate different species. If Ember agrees and if you agree, he could stay here with you. You would continue his care and education while we provide support and resources. Ember's scales immediately brightened to a brilliant gold. Ember stay with Jake? Really stay? Not trick? Not a trick, Alan confirmed. You would be part of an official program. In a few years, when you are older and fully grown, you might serve as an ambassador. If we find other dragons, you could help us communicate with them. But for now, you would live here and keep learning. The dragon launched himself at Jake, wrapping his wings around him in an enthusiastic hug. Jake, hear that? Ember, stay! Ember, not leave! Jake hugged the dragon back, feeling relief wash over him. I heard, buddy. That is wonderful news. So you accept the position? Commander Frank asked. Yes, sir. Absolutely yes. Over the next 3 days, the team from Central Command ran various tests with Ember. They measured his size, tested his fire breathing, checked his health. Alan and Casey spent hours talking with Ember, assessing his language skills and cognitive development. Throughout all of it, Ember was patient and cooperative, though he always made sure Jake was nearby. The tests confirmed what Jake already knew. Ember was healthy, intelligent, and developing normally for his species based on what the historical records indicated. He showed no signs of trauma or distress. If anything, he seemed remarkably well adjusted for someone who had hatched alone on an alien planet. On the last evening before the team left, Alan sat down with Jake and Ember to go over the long-term plan. Based on the historical records, he will reach full size in about 5 years. That is roughly 10 feet long from nose to tail, with a wingspan of about 15 feet. His fire breathing will get much stronger. Right now he can barely light a candle, but eventually he will be able to melt metal. Ember, be very careful with big fire. The dragon promised solemnly, not want hurt anyone. We know you will be careful, Alan assured him. We have also documented early signs of telepathic ability. You mentioned sometimes knowing what Jake is feeling. That will likely develop further as you get older. But talking better, Ember interjected. Talking show Jake that Ember think hard about words. If just think it Jake, not same, not special. Casey, who was also there, looked fascinated. That is a really interesting point. Why do you prefer talking over telepathy? Because when Ember use words, Jake know Ember trying. Jake proud when Ember learn new word. Make connection stronger. If just send thoughts, too easy. Not mean as much. Alan and Casey exchanged glances. That is remarkably sophisticated emotional reasoning, Alan said quietly. Ember sophisticated dragon, Ember agreed cheerfully, clearly pleased with himself for using another big word correctly. The next morning, the team prepared to leave. They had loaded all their equipment back onto their ship and were saying goodbye at the landing pad. Alan shook Jake's hand. You have done something really special here, Jake. Not many people could have handled this situation as well as you did. I just did what felt right. That is exactly why you are the right person for this job. Alan turned to Ember. And you, young dragon, keep working on your vocabulary. I expect your next report to use even bigger words. Ember will. Ember already learning photosynthesis, and quantum, and metamorphosis. Casey laughed and gave Ember a gentle pat on the head. You are going to do great things, Ember, I'm sure of it. Even Dr. Henderson, who had been skeptical at first, seemed impressed. The dragon is a remarkable specimen. I mean, a remarkable individual. Take good care of him, Morrison. After the ship left, Jake and Ember stood outside the outpost watching it disappear into the sky. The twin suns were setting, painting the red canyons in shades of orange and gold. Jake, Ember said quietly. Yes, buddy? Thank you. For not leave Ember alone. For teach words. For befriend. Thank you for trusting me, Jake replied, and for trying so hard to talk with me. I know it was not easy, especially at the beginning. Was easy after a while, because Ember know Jake listen even when words come out wrong, even when say Helgork instead of hello. The dragon made a sound that might have been a laugh. Ember still remember Helgork. Very silly. It was pretty silly, Jake agreed, smiling at the memory. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, perhaps, were others of Ember's kind. But for now, this was home. A human and a dragon, brought together by chance, learning to communicate across the vast gap between species. Jake, Ember said again, yes? Tomorrow, Ember learn word philosopher. Is ready for very big words now. Philosopher is a tough one. Are you sure? Ember not scared of tough words. Ember brave dragon. Ember can learn anything. Yes, you are brave. And yes, you can learn anything you want. As they walked back inside, Ember chattered away about all the words he wanted to learn next. Jake listened with a smile, adding suggestions and corrections when needed. He thought about how much had changed in just a few weeks. He had come to this outpost looking for a quiet assignment, and instead he found the most important mission of his life. Teaching Ember to speak had taught Jake something too. It taught him that understanding between different beings was always possible, if both sides were willing to try. It taught him that patience and kindness could bridge any gap. It taught him that sometimes to